All right, so I wanted to make a video breaking in depth kind of like the Runaway and talking about her, partly in due to the buffs that came out with her, because I'm sure that there's at least some people that are looking at this and they're wondering about, okay, why Hearthlight and Run and Hide were definitely both abilities that are not good. So why did those ones get buffed as opposed to, because I think the general consensus is that the Runaway is a little bit, she's not the best in the world. So why not the burn? Why not the damage for something like Searing Strike? Why not controlled burn, blah, 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 right? So I'm going to kind of get into it. The Runaway, in the right situation when the stars align, is the most powerful character in this game. But trying to get the stars to align in this game, as you can imagine, meaning the right trinkets, the right in items, the right, you're running the right path, the right this and this and this. It is impossible to consistently get that in each run in one single act. So most people don't see the Runaway at her best. I think that everybody would pretty much agree in this game the best way to have success is consistently is with dots, meaning either the burn or the blight or the bleed, and she is the highest output of it in the perfect situation. So from a game balance standpoint, when it comes to balancing a character, you have to think about the character. How is the character at its strongest? Because at its strongest can potentially be game breaking. So I think when it comes to the Man-at-Arms, why it took the Man-at-Arms, for example, to why it took so long for him to be nerfed is because a tank in a game like this is not a game breaker. It is extremely powerful and makes runs easier for sure, but is not a game breaker in the same way that high damage can be. Because high damage, if you get one character that does a ton of damage, it'll fucking one-shot everything. Imagine if you could finale without like a cooldown or something. Obviously, that's extreme. Like Howling End didn't have a negative. Stuff like this, Burning Stars, you didn't need the tokens for. If you could use that every turn, it would be game-breaking. You would run over every single fight, as opposed to tanks are not going to be, running over fights in the same way. They might be good sponges, but they're not going to run over it in the same way. So let's do some math. So in this perfect scenario with the Runaway, so if you run Orphan, for example, if rank 4 plus 2 burn dealt, so that means Firefly is the main ability that you're going to be using. So Firefly goes from a 3 to a 5 right off the bat. Let's say you master it. Okay, it goes from a 5 to a 7. So in the 4 rank, you are doing 7 burn every single time that this goes through. 7 over 3 turns is pretty insane. That's 21 damage right off the bat. So let's say in the perfect scenario that you get the right trinkets. Obviously, Snappy Swig is going to be it. So all of a sudden, you're now doing 8 per turn if you have Snappy Swig. And it's not even considering the fact that if you get her speed to 8, which is not super difficult because her base speed is 5, you're going to be critting 50% of the time. Now, let's say, for example, so you now have an 8 over 3 turns. So let's say you also get Sacred Scribblings. All right, so all of a sudden you have 8 over 5 turns. That's 40 damage. Pretty insane. And let's say, for example, the idea with Orphan is like, okay, well, you don't have the piercing that like Arsonist was. That's fine. You can still do 8 burn over 3 turns and then add like the Laden Lantern in here. And all of a sudden you have some piercing. Or you can add the Tinderbox for a little bit more piercing. And so you're doing, at the peak, you're doing 8 over 3 turns. Let's actually add, let's say you have this trinket instead. So now you have the, let's say the Snappy Swig, which makes it 8. And you have the Knitted Blanket, which now makes it 10. So you are now doing 10 burn over 3 turns just every time that you use Firefly. And that's not even counting the potential crits that you're going to be getting in general or the crits that you're going to be doing from Snappy Swig. So let's actually add one more. Her in item. Her in item goes +3 if she's stealthed. So now if you can stealth her, if you can get her consistently stealthed, she's now doing 13 burn over 3 turns. Now, obviously the idea of this all lining up is low, but you have to consider it from a game balance aspect because 13 is insane, far higher than any other hero and any other dot that you can get. 13 over 3 turns, and that's not even considering something if you combo it with like Cause of Death, where if you were to get that, all of a sudden you have 39 free damage on the next turn with a Cause of Death. So it just, she can get so out of hand. And I think that it is why, that is why it is difficult to balance her, because just even if, let's say, you don't get a perfect one and it's only 10, or say, you know, maybe it's only 12 per turn, maybe it's only 11 and this isn't even counting controlled burn, by the way, because you add controlled burn onto that, then it's an extra 3 or 4 burn on their turn. So now, essentially per turn, if everything works perfectly and you master control burn and you have Firefly, you can do 17 burn between her turn and between whoever's turn that you have controlled burn on. You see why that gets out of hand. And then something with like backdraft also, you combo that with backdraft. Obviously, in this particular situation, you know, you're gonna be in the back with orphans, so it's not like you're gonna be using backdraft, but you get the point of it. This is why they buffed Run and Hide and Hearthlight as opposed to pretty much anything else. Because pretty much any other buffs to her will get her completely out of hand. The more often that she can get close to that perfect run, if you buff if you buff her fire, it's a higher chance that she can get close to that perfect dot per turn, which is absolutely fucking insane. So I want to get into an issue with the flow of the Runaway that maybe people think that she isn't the I don't want to say clunky, but maybe isn't the most smooth character in the world. And it's because she has a whole ass ability, which now does more, but she has a whole ass ability to give her stealth, even though she has nothing intrinsically in her kit that do anything with stealth. So if you look at the Grave Robber, not even counting the paths, Glint in the Dark, when you master Glint in the Dark, it gives an execution 3, so it goes 3 through death tokens. That's obviously really nice. With Lunge, when she is stealthed, you have it ignores dodge. You know how you have Repartee. Now, if she stealth, gain +4 crit when missed. So you have these intrinsic ways of making stealth feel good within her, and that's not even counting Venom Drop. That's not even counting Nightsworn, that obviously get buffs from being stealth. I don't think that Bonnie has to necessarily be a full stealth character in the way that the Grave Robber does, but the fact that Runaway, if this stealth wasn't here, it literally wouldn't. It would make no difference. Make no difference. Nobody would even care. The only thing is if you get into as I mentioned earlier, the randomness of getting trinkets and getting in items or not getting them. So her stealth, what works with her is not intrinsically in her kit. It's gated behind trinkets that you may not even see, or you may not even buy, or you may not even be able to buy, or you might not want to buy. You may not get them. So backdraft stealths her. Okay, cool. Now what? She's stealth. Now what? It's fine, but compared to if you're going to be using a skill to get stealth, it should have a purpose. Otherwise, it feels a little slow. Obviously, you still have the carved toy. Also, if stealth, you know, a 50% chance of a crit, which is good. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, you may never see this. She has her signature in item. If stealthed, +3, you know, burn given, which works, but it's only for one region, and you may not see it. You may not even have it unlocked. So her stealth just like doesn't matter in most situations, at least not reliably enough to feel fun. Again, I don't think it has to be the Grave Robber where she has to have 2 paths for it, and she has to have her blah blah blah, like her, you know, her skills do this or whatever. But I think that something needs to be interesting, at least in one of her paths, if not her kit in general, that has to do with stealth. So what would I do as far as the Runaway goes is I would change this in item completely. This in item is frankly ridiculous. It might as well truthfully have no downside, because when are you ever going to get burned? If you knew that you're going to go into the sprawl, you just won't put that on. Then you're probably saving this in item for the boss anyways. You know, Arsonist, yeah, can burn her, but like the negative being a slightly more burn, you know, at the beginning of a turn is really not a downside for how insane that upside is. Okay, so now that we've highlighted how truly strong that the Runaway can be, and how much of a nightmare she is to balance. What do we do about it? So, in my opinion, I think there's two things that need to be done. Either some sort of stealth benefit has to be added to her, ideally her base kit, if not at least one of the paths, just to have some purpose. Because I think if you at least have it on one of the paths, then it's justifiable having. Because just having almost no realistic synergy kind of sucks. And I think her in item needs to be changed because it has just way too much of an upside for what it might as well be a non-existent downside. This would, both of these, again, the stealth mechanic would, or the stealth change would make it so that she's a little smoother to play, in my opinion, and the getting rid of the in item would make it so she's a little better to balance, and you can make some of these more gutsy changes to her in the future, balance changes to make her a little bit better. So I have some ideas that I could change it to. Okay, so make it reverse orphan. So make it if rank 1 +2 burn dealt all the way down to if rank 4 then plus 40% damage. Something like that, because in items do have to be strong, and you could obviously either combo it with orphan or with any other build. Maybe you don't even need to have a negative. Maybe it could just be if rank 1 +2 burn dealt, if rank 2 +1 burn dealt, if rank 3 plus 20 damage, if rank 4 20% damage or 40% damage. Maybe it doesn't even have to have a negative, because it is an in item, right? So it's only usable for one region, unless you get multiple, but typically you're only going to get one. So it can be pretty strong because you can get away with it because it's only really just kind of like a boss slayer, right? So another in item idea is it could be damage abilities apply a weak token, support abilities apply a guard. So damage abilities, meaning not Hearthlight, first of all, but anything that does damage, control burn, firefly, searing strike, backdraft, it could apply a weak token, or it could apply a vulnerable token. Vulnerable token might be kind of strong, but it could apply a weak token, or have a chance at least to apply a weak token. All these ideas you can switch around a little bit, but these are just kind of to like get an idea. And supportive would be Cauterize and Firestarter, so it would give her a little bit of extra utility because you could add a guard. And again, it's only through one region, so it's not super busted. It's just, it would be a nice little thing to have. Plus 10% chance for speed token per burn target, because this would allow, obviously with Magnesium Rain, with the Plague Doctor, there's a lot of synergy there. Dragonfly, it would obviously be very good. With the Crusader would be really good. Any, burn combat items, that would be a good idea. Burn targets, -2 speed. Another good one that could synergize kind of with everything. You could also say -1 speed, whatever. But that'd be an interesting idea. Gives her a little more, like I said, kind of like a little more utility to kind of the comp. -1, so you could either do this as an in item or just stealth in general. -1 stress per turn when stealthed. That would be pretty good. Give her a little more self-reliance, either for one region or if you added it to a path. Obviously, that would just be kind of nice to have in general. We have plus dodge token every turn stealth. Or again, you could make it so there's a chance that she gets a dodge token. So that means when she comes out of stealth, she is not going to get hit nearly as hard. Hopefully. 50% chance to remove negative token to random teammate. You could make that an in item, or you could make that when stealthed, just to give her a little bit of extra purpose there. When stealthed ideas. When she's stealthed, you could say plus damage to burned enemies. For somebody that doesn't do a ton of damage, like the Runaway, that would still be, I mean, you could do something like 50% and it'd be a good buff, because it would either make, it would make Firefly either do a little bit more, like from 2 to 4, 3 to 5, whatever, or it makes Searing Strike that does, some decent damage, like when you master it, does 4 to 7, maybe it does a little bit more, it makes it a little hard hitter. And again, if that is if that's stealth to one particular path, you could do it like that, or if that's an in item, you could buff it to like 100% and just make her really strong for one region. When she's stealth, you could give her plus debuff and plus move piercing. So that would make Smokescreen and Ransack both pretty solid. A burn ability maybe when she's stealthed, or again, you can make this an in item. Burn ability has a 50% chance to spread. So obviously that goes off of, the random adjacent enemy when comboed that Ransack or Firefly has. But it's an addition to it. I mean, they took the the one trinket, the toy that 50% chance to combo when you use Hearthlight, and they added that to the base kit and made it to when you master it. So they could do a similar kind of thing like that with the spread. I think that there's just more interesting things that you can do than +3 dealt or +3 burn dealt when stealth. I think that made sense at the time when it was created to make sense and make sure that she does have a lot of burn. But since then, there's just so many ways of getting burn and so many ways, like with her trinkets and everything, that it just sort of gets out of hand. Even if you got a memory like favorite toy too, it amplifies all this, if not just a tiny bit. So overall, the Runaway is very, very strong. It's like she has a high ceiling and a low floor. I mean, she's either fucking super good or she's kind of meh. And more often it's meh, but you still, from a balance aspect, you still have to think about the ceiling when you're doing the balancing. So I think this would make everybody's life a little bit easier. It would make it smoother for players, and it would make it smoother for the dev team to balance her in the future. Those are just kind of my thoughts that I've had on the Runaway and kind of wanted to share with everybody, because I have way too many hours in this game, and I've played every hero a million times, and had many sad runs with every hero. The Runaway is stronger than you think. So any sort of feedback that you guys have for this, I would appreciate it. Subscribing would be nice because it would make me happy, and I'd be like, wow, that's pretty cool. Stop by the Twitch stream and just say, hey, I watched your Runaway video, thanks, that was really interesting. Or, hey, I watched your Runaway video, it was pretty shit. Whatever, I'll take it. I appreciate you watching this video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day.